Kum Lena Ablat Gemara was coming towards the end of Aseichas Umnin, and we are about to, starting tomorrow, we're going to have a few days relief. Agadata, beautiful Agadata, before we get back into the thick of things. So we are up to here, Pei Beis, today's daf is daf Pei Beis Amud Aleph. We are up to about 10 lines from the bottom of the page. The last thing we learned about was a machlekes between Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. If somebody lends money on a mashkin, what is your relationship to mashkin? Are you a shomer chinim or a shomer sachas? If you lost a mashkin and you're merely a shomer chinim, then you're not liable for it and you still collect your loan. That's Rabbi Eliezer opinion. Rabbi Akiva says no, that you're a shomer sachar, and therefore if you lose the mashkin, you're responsible and you don't get paid. So we tried to work out whether Al Mishnah over here that says that on a mashkin you're shomer sachar, whether it agrees with that. And we said there's a difference perhaps between a mashkin that you received at the time of the loan or a mashkin you receive as form of payment. A mashkin you receive form of payment, everyone agrees that this mashkin is like your shomer sachar. But the argument is a mashkin at the moment of the loan. Kiva says, well, it's there as form of payment. If you don't pay me, I'm going to collect from the mashkin. So therefore, I'm having from having the mashkin. So I'm a shomer sachar. I'm responsible if it got lost. According to Rabbi Eliezer, the initial mashkin is it to make sure that you're not going to deny that you ever lent the money from me. So I don't have any direct benefit from this mashkin at all. So up to the Gemara here. Lema. So right now the Gemara concludes our Mishnah does not conform with Rabbi Eliezer, who says you merely shomer chinim. Says the Gemara, and the reason why we didn't like that explanation we gave about the difference, because our Mishnah clearly says he'll veyu ala mashkin. So we're talking about the initial loan, and even so, our Mishnah clearly says you're a shomer sachar, which means our Mishnah does not conform with Rabbi Eliezer. So the Gemara continues, a very interesting argument. Lema, like follows. Let us say that the argument of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva is talking about a case where the mashkin does not equate, the value of the mashkin does not equate to the value of the loan. And the argument there is what happens in that case. In other words, if the mashkin equates to the value of the loan, then it's clear that the purpose of the mashkin is to get paid back. So then Rabbi Eliezer would agree that you're a shomer sachar. I'm having benefit from the mashkin because I know I'm going to get paid. So our Mishnah goes to everybody. This argument in the Braisa of Eliezer is talking about a case where the mashkin, let's say the loan's for $1,000, the mashkin is worth only $100. So what's the argument? And they're arguing the mashkin is not worth equal to the loan, and they're arguing the Shmuel Kamiflagin. Shmuel, what does Shmuel say? Shmuel said a fascinating halacha. Hi man the oisve alvazul chavri. Proven lend Shimon $1,000. The adich cut to the migla allow you, and he left him behind there. Let's say a shovel or something, or an axe, and only worth $100. What happens? You lose that mashkin. At worst, you still have to pay me $900. Even if you tell me I'm responsible for that mashkin, which is worth $100, okay, deduct that from what you owe me. Says Shmuel, no. The whole loan is, you give me back my mashkin, I'll pay you the money. That was the deal. And that's what Shmuel says. And therefore, that's the machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. Very hard. Who has to take a mashkin? But if he wants to just get a star and a shibud and a karkos, if he wants a mashkin, he got to take the responsibility. Yeah, because that's the thing. You're a shomer. Yeah, okay. It sounds like it's like an arrangement we have. Okay, true. Okay. Well, he asked for the mashkin. Yeah. No, Rabbi Eliezer holds in this case when the mashkin is worth $100 and the loan's $1,000. Rabbi Eliezer says, I hold. You can't say the mashkin did to get payment. $100 payment for $1,000 loan must be in this case. It's only for the current dvorim. It's only to make sure that you don't deny tomorrow the loan. But if the loan and the mashkin are equal, then Rabbi Eliezer made it that the purpose of the mashkin is a source of payment in case you can't pay me. So anybody can be. Why not? Nah, nobody agrees with this word to Shmuel like you say. Nobody agrees with that word. Why? Because and therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, you're a shomer sachar, all you lose is the $100 worth of the mashkin. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you're a shomer chinim, you lose nothing. You still get paid the full $1,000. So what's the argument? Maybe they're arguing about something else. It's talking that what? That the mashkin is worth the full $1,000. And yet, what's the machlek of Blazer and Rabbi Akiva? The kamiflig with Rabbi Yitzchak, they're arguing Rabbi Yitzchak, which we had in many places, Psachim and other places we had, and that is the Rabbi Yitzchak. We mentioned this yesterday. Menayil about chayv shekayna mashkin. Haino about chayv is kayna a mashkin. Shenema, Haino, when you have a mashkin, you have rights to it. Says l'choti is dok. If you return it at night to the poor person, will count it as charity. I mean, kayna mashkin tzedakah. You can't give charity to somebody else's item, especially it's his own item. Give him back his thing. You give him charity unless it's mine. Big machlek is a Rishonim. Rashi hold that you're kayna mashkin le'oinsit. That means it's completely yours. Tosha says no. It means you're kind of mashkin as like a shem masacher, that you have certain rights to it. And what is a shem masacher? According to the Tosha, other Rishonim, the fact that you can be mekadosh a woman with it, I have that hana that I have some use with this mashkin, and therefore that makes me a shem masacher. Rashi holds einzin, and so on. Says more further, but bro, I'm going to ask a question. Hey, when does Rabbi Yitzchak say the mashkin shalei b'shas avasi? When does it say that you have rights in the mashkin? It came day of payment, the guy couldn't pay, so payment, he gave you a mashkin. Okay, that's a form of payment. I have rights to it. I have a mashkin b'shas avasi, but at the time of the loan, you give me a mashkin. Why do I own it? I'm just holding it as security. Me, Amma, did he say it? Now, Tosfos and a number of Rishonim hold that that's the maskana of the Gemara. That according to Rabbi Yitzchak, when do you own it? Only if it's shalei b'shas havasi. B'shas havasi, you don't really own it at all. We learned you can make kaddish a woman with it because since this mashkin was caused me to be meshabed, caused that this life is meshubed to me for the loan that he took. So therefore, that shibud I can pass on to somebody else. This mashkin comes alone. That shibud I can pass on to somebody else. However, many Rishonim learn pshat and this, and they want to say the same pshat. Rashi and Achreim say that no, that the maskana of the Gemara is this is only a half a minute. We're trying to push away Rabbi Yitzchak. But at the end, Rabbi Yitzchak makes no difference. But is there a difference? So they want to say there's a difference. And only if you understand, if you follow Rashi, it can make sense. Shalai b'shas havasi you're chayvim for einzin because it's completely yours. It's payment. It's mine until you give me money and take it back. B'shas havasi at the time it's a step less. That's when you're a shem masacher. That's how they understand Rashi. And Tosha disagrees. Tosha holds that you're shem masacher only b'shalei b'shas havasi. Ella mashkana shem havasi kuli almi. Everyone holds like Rabbi Yitzchak. So what's the machlek is Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Lezer? Rabbi Lezer says you're only a shem mechinim. You don't have no rights to it, and therefore you're not responsible for anything happens to it. V'hocha mashkana shem havasi. Ub'shem Rabbi Akiva. Remember the machlek we had in Morna. The beautiful machlek is between Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef. If you're a shemer aveda, you are shemer sacher shem mechinim. Now we're comparing Shemer Aveda to a loan. A Shemer Aveda, you had no choice. The Eibishter made you take care of Aveda. You found an Aveda, the Torah says you got to get Shabbos Aveda. A loan, it's optional. I gave him those a mitzvah. I decided to give a loan, but yet we're equating the two, and that is as follows: what's the machlek of Shemer Aveda? While the Aveda is by me, according to Rabbi, you're a Shemer Chinim. According to Rabbi Yosef, you're a Shemer Sacher. Why are you a Shemer Sacher? What how am I getting over here taking care of Aveda? It's a pain in the neck. Says Rabbi Yosef. Pruta de Rabbi Yosef. If a poor person comes to you, b'shas, you are spreading it out and shaking this object, you got to take care of it. Boom, that minute, a poor person comes, you're potter for giving tzedakah. Because oisig the mitzvah, potter min mitzvah. So therefore, I'm having some hana. And Rabbi says, lo yishchicha. Boom, that minute, somebody should come. That's not how we normally learn. But Rashi says here, I'll tell you, let's see in a second. Sorry, what do you want to say? Oh, that's very good. That's Rashi in the Durham. But Rashi here, okay. So like this, there's no question. According to Rabbi, you're a Shem Mechinim. Rabbi Akiva says that hereby alone you're a Shem Mesacher. Rabbi obviously does not agree with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva can't pass on Rabbi Akiva. The question is Rabbi Yosef, can he hold like Rabbi Eliezer? He says you're a Shem Mesacher. Maybe alone is different. Now, what's the machlekes over there regarding a mitzvah? So Rashi says over here, interesting. He adds one word. Rashi says over here, where is it? No, I'm trying to remember what the Rashi is. Yeah, the first Rashi. Rashi says here, the reason Rabbi Akiva is because Shemer Sacher mitzvahu. By alone, you're doing a mitzvah as well. We're going to tie in alone here. What mitzvah are you doing here? Okay, by Shemer Aveda, you're watching the Aveda mitzvah. What mitzvah are you doing here? So Rashi learns the loan itself is a mitzvah. The loan took place in the beginning, and now the mashkin is in my house. Why am I Shem Sacher? Because the Shem Sacher, once you started the Shem Sacher, you remain a Shem Sacher. You pay me for let's say for taking care of your item in the beginning, and you have a Shem Sacher the whole time. Or you pay me then. Same thing here, according to Rashi. I did a mitzvah the moment I lent you the money. And the only reason why I lent you the money because he gave me this mashkin. That moment I did a mitzvah, and the rest of the time it's sitting with me. The next 30 days, I'm a Shem Sacher. Tosis and Rabbi Chanan, they don't like Rashi at all. They say that it's exactly like Shem Aveda. If you have a mashkin, you also got to take care of it. Just like an Aveda, you got to take care of it. And during those few minutes that let's say it's a coat and you have to shake it out or whatever it is, during those few minutes, if a tzedakah comes to your way, you are potter. And according to Rashi, it's dafka during the minute that you are lending money. If a poor person comes, that very minute, he sees taking out your wallet and giving cash. Oh, I'll take some as well. That minute you are potter. So that's what we're talking about here. And Rashi says here, the boy lo yoiv ritzelanya. It's up to you. You can use that as your excuse. Now, this is very important. Big machlekes are showing oisig mitzvah pot is actually 3 opinions. One was an orichus, it's a sukkah chafei. Big machlekes are showing. According to Tosfos, oisig mitzvah pot and mitzvahs only if you can't do both mitzvahs. But if you can do both mitzvahs, you chayiv them both. According to the Ran over there and other Rishonim, even if you could do the other mitzvah, but the Ran had the slightest tircha, you are potter. According to the Marachar Zerua, even if you could do the other mitzvahs, even if you could do the mitzvah, no problem. You don't do the other mitzvah. Why? Because you don't have the other mitzvah. In other words, when you look at a mitzvah, you look at what the common denominator of all mitzvahs, you look at what each individuality of each mitzvah. If you look at the common denominator, what's the chiyuv I put on tefillin if I'm learning Torah? It's so Eibishter. But each mitzvah has their own meaning. So if you learn that the main thing of a mitzvah is what makes each mitzvah different, so oisig mitzvah is only a tchuya. I can't do both mitzvahs. Exactly. But if you learn that, but Shas, I'm doing this mitzvah, I'm doing the other mitzvah as well. It's the same thing because it's the same Eibishter. So then, if you don't have the other mitzvah, you don't have it. Rashi says it's up to you, which means that you do have the other mitzvah. Mishnah Bura has a very interesting chakira in Taf Ayin Pesach. If while you were eating matzah, you were busy doing another mitzvah. Let's say you're giving tzedakah, a guy had no food, and giving him. Were you yaitz in the midst of matzah? You were chewing matzah while you're getting yaitz matzah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And you're handing him while you're eating. You're handing him a place matzah. Are you? Do you have to eat the matzah again? No, did you do a mitzvah? No, no. And he sort of said, if I remember correctly, you should eat matzah again, but maybe without a bracha. But it depends on which of the shayna you go. Interesting question. Okay, let's continue. So Rabbi Yosef, let's say Rabbi Yosef also will not work out. According to Rabbi, for sure he doesn't come out of Rabbi Kiva. But maybe Rabbi will come out of Rabbi Yosef. I said Rabbi Yosef cannot come out of Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yosef says Yeshem Mesacher, and Rabbi Lezer says Yeshem Mechirim. Look, Yeshem Aveda Kuli Hamish Rabbi Yosef. Maybe it comes to Aveda. Everyone will Rabbi Yosef, but put Rabbi Yosef you put it. The Malva needs a mashkin. He actually made the loan because he knew that he'll get this mashkin. And he wanted to use the mashkin. And he would deduct. He'll deduct from the loan the use of the mashkin. He knew the guy wouldn't rent it out Sambazay. But if he's desperate for a loan, he'll give me this as a mashkin. I can use it. And let's say I would have to pay $10 a year for using it. I'll deduct that from the loan. So this, because I need the mashkin, so what do you call it? He says that Kiva says you did a mitzvah by lending the money, which sounds like, according to some say this sounds like Rashi, that the mitzvah is the loan itself, not that you're taking care of the mashkin. So therefore, it's like that in that moment a poor person will come to you, be part of from giving. So therefore, it's Yishem Mesacha. I'm having hana. Who cares that you have a benefit? So that's Rabbi Kiva Shulvei. When Rabbi Lezer holds, love mitzvah. You're not doing a mitzvah. Why? At the end of the day, you're not, even though you're doing a mitzvah, you're not doing it for the mitzvah. You're doing it because I want the mashkin. It's interesting. Even though I'm doing a mitzvah, and we learned in Psachim the person should do mitzvahs and be like the Shema, try the mitzvah Shema, you could maybe say the Shema. But here it sounds like he's not doing a mitzvah at all, which is a very strong thing to say. You can't have both, as if to say, if you're doing it for your own personal thing, even though you're doing a mitzvah, it's as if you didn't do a mitzvah. So in other words, if a poor person would have come then at that time, maybe you would have to give tzedakah. I wouldn't, which is a very big chiddush. I haven't seen anybody really focus on this, but it's a big chiddush to say that if you didn't, because there's a whole chakira when you say mitzvah tzrichas kavanah. If I don't have kavanah, what am I missing? What am I missing out on? And my mitzvah ni kavanah means there's two parts to a mitzvah. Ma'aseh. there's a ma'aseh mitzvah and there's a ma'aseh kavanah. So if I don't have kavanah, is the pshat. The mitzvah I did, but I'm missing the other part of the mitzvah, which is kavanah, or the pshat I didn't do a mitzvah at all. It seems from here, and I don't remember them bringing this money. It seems from here that if you don't do it with kavanah for the mitzvah, it's not on your chesar and the kavanah. The chesar is the mitzvah itself, and therefore, if a poor person would come by your way, you would have to give him tzedakah. Yeah, but the mitzvah is not the tzedakah. Yeah, but the mitzvah is not the tzedakah. The mitzvah here is giving a loan. And we don't say that by law. We only say that some say only by ma'aseh, others say being involved in the but that's the second mitzvah. Yeah, the mitzvah I'm doing is lending the money. According to Rashi, lending the money. And exactly. And the Gemara Blazer says because the kavanah is not there, you're not doing it with shame. The mitzvah of lending money. No, you're not doing shame mitzvah of lending money. Lending money is a separate thing than tzedakah. I'm not in kesher ta'avazami is only it's a different mitzvah. If I'm not doing with a mitzvah, if I didn't do a mitzvah at all, and therefore it's not you cannot use it as an excuse not to give tzedakah. Remember that says boy, it's up to you whether you want to use it as an excuse or not. And you're right. Rashi in the Dorim, which we know is not Rashi, there it says that Rabbah says not that loishkiach that a poor person comes there, loishkiach that a yid would use an excuse not to give tzedakah, to give tzedakah. And that's can the Gemara. Abu Shalom, Abu Shalom, Mutlam, ask him to go on. You're allowed to lend out the mashkin of a poor person and charge rent and deduct that from the loan. In fact, you're doing him a favor. It's a Shabbos Aveda. You're helping the poor person out. Always talking about what kind of mashkin, the mortar, a pencil, a cardam, these different kinds of blades, a shovel or an axe or another kind of a blade that you use to cutting things that do not deteriorate quickly, but you can charge good money for it. Oil the nafish guy, the two parts to it, and zutra pechsai. First of all, that doesn't really degrade, ruin the item. Number one. Number two is the substantial rent here, so that the poor person gains from this. If it's only a few dollars, it's not worth the whole thing. It's very small. That's very small. Exactly. The deterioration of this product is minimal. Mishnah. You ask these people to go ahead and transport or move barrels from one place to another. While they were doing their job, it broke. Even Yishem not just Gneva Vaveda, Yechai for things which are not negligence, but they're close to an accident or close to negligence. As long as it's not 100% accident. Accident means it happened on its own. The moment you're involved, it's not really an accident. It's sort of, it could be, it's not really your fault, accidentally it fell, but I was involved. It's a step above an accident. But nevertheless, Shava, he swears, and you are potter. You swear you weren't negligent, and you are potter. Rabbi says, I heard the same thing, that this is what Ameir said. Oh, but to me, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. How can a Shem Mesachar, this is not, it's not negligent, but it's not an accident, it's not an oinus, it's a step above an oinus. The fact that you were transporting it, you tripped, or whatever it is, how can you be potter? We'll see anymore. What am I learned? We learned actually the B'nai 3 opinions. You transported this chavi, you broke it. You swear that you're negligent and you are potter. Now remember we had in Bava Kama the idea of niskel. If somebody slips, are you considered negligent, a pasheya, or do you say it's not your fault, you slipped? It's not your fault. And the mayor said niskel pasheya, if you slip, it's your fault. And the Chum say niskel is not a pasheya. Yet in our Mishnah, what happened with the barrel? You slipped, obviously, and the barrel broke. And yet the mayor says you swear that you were negligent and you potter. Right? He doesn't. Now over there, Rab Meir goes to talk. Rab Meir in Bava Kama says that niskel pasheya. If you slip, you should be more careful. It's negligence. And here he says, just swear that you weren't negligent and you potter. How do we reconcile to the Meirs? How else? No, how else the barrel break? No, that's not what we're talking about. Then what's it? No, we're talking about you slipped. The pashas, it slipped. You slipped. As we'll see. Abiyudah says, Taka swears he wasn't negligent. Because still, even though it wasn't negligent, but it's partially his fault. Rabbi Lezer says, I agree with Rameir, every day you shove it. But to me, and I'm amazed. How could Hashem swear? Now, does Rabbi Lezer say the same Rabbi Yehuda? Then what's Rabbi Lezer saying? We'll see. Remember, the stuff that I made hold from here clearly. See, I made hold this kilapasha. You slip, you're not a pasha. You swear that you were negligent, and you put it. I don't understand. But Tanya, we learned Hamaniyah, Nishbarakada, your barrel broke, your barrel broke in the middle of the street, and you didn't clean it up. Nafla gamla b'lay your camel fell down, you didn't bother picking it up. But anything happens, you're chayiv. But then the other, why? It's your fault. It's like you made a boy, Rishus Rabin, because Niskul Poshayo. And the Chacham say potter within the other. It's an accident. You're potter. But if you had enough time to remove it, now you're a Poshayo. The Chai b'din Ishmai. The Chai b'kaimla, and we learned over there, the Niskul Poshayo, they're arguing when you slip is your fault. How do we reconcile this Mishnah with Abraisa? I'm going to say you're right. Tavra, you're right. Or break it. Misha Shanuzu, Le Shanuzu. Two different opinions what Meir said. Actually, tomorrow we'll see there's another way of understanding that the Meir to reconcile with that. Even though the Meir holds it's your fault, but we're not going to have you swear. We're not going to make you pay. And the reason we Gemara says tomorrow, Bechon says is because otherwise nobody's going to want to work for somebody else and move things because they know that it could slip and you're going to charge me for it. What I need the headache. Mali l'tzara so get other kinds of work. So it's like a takana, special takana we made. You don't have to pay, but we'll see. But also, so now it comes Rabbi Yehuda, and he says, "Shoy mechin," and I understand Yeshava because Rabbi Yehuda holds that a niskul is not a pesheya, but it's not an oinus. It's sort of in between. So Shoy mechinim swears it wasn't negligent, but Hashem says Yishalom because high kidina, each one according to his halachas. And what Rabbi Lezer say? But also Rabbi Lezer lemeimar in. I taka heard from my Rebbe's exactly what that mayor said, that they swear and that potter that were negligent. I don't understand. We'll soon explain Rabbi Lezer's opinion. Is he saying I agree with Rabbi Yehuda? Just say I agree with Rabbi Yehuda. And more explain that. I understand you swear he wasn't negligent because Niskul lav pesheya. You know, he agrees with the Rabbanon that a Niskul is not a pesheya. And therefore, it makes sense that a Shemichin doesn't pay because he wasn't negligent. Okay. What's the Shemichin swearing? He wasn't negligent? Who cares? Even if he wasn't negligent, he has to pay. No. Let's go a step further. Even a Shemichin Nami. When do we say it's not his fault? The Mokamid and it was on a slope. You told him, no, it's on top over there, and the top of the hill. I want you to bring the barrels down. You know that it's treacherous and there's a precipitous, and it's possible to fall. So it's not his fault if he fell. Okay, so Niskal Lav Pasher. If it was not on a slope, it was in a straight area. How did you fall? Obviously, you weren't looking. There, we'll hold you responsible. We'll call you negligence. You're walking a straight level ground and the barrel slipped. Obviously, you weren't careful. We are negligent. So even the Shemchinim, how can you swear I wasn't negligent? But you were. How can you swear that I wasn't negligent? Nachman. Even if it's on a slope, so the whole thing I don't understand. Even if it's a slope, I don't understand why you potter by swearing it wasn't negligent. Okay, if he has no witnesses, nobody saw him, so he swears, look, I wasn't negligent because it was a slope. It's not my fault. That's what happened when you go on a slope and the heavy barrel. Okay, but if there is witnesses, we could the other people in the street, we wouldn't have let them swear. Nay, say even if the only way that he can get out of it is by having witnesses. Whenever that witness is available, we're not going to rely on a shvur. We want witnesses. Tanya Isa ben Ain Raya. If nobody saw, then shvur is Hashem Ti Meshlem. That's only when you swear. But this is din of shame. Later on in the Gemara tomorrow, we'll see that this applies in other cases as well. Ha yes Raya. But if there are people who can see, if they'll bring the witness, and then you'll be potter. So Rabbi Lezer says, I don't understand this whole halacha. What do you decide? I don't understand Hashem Sachar. In fact, I don't even understand Hashem Bechim either. Okay, so that's how we live shot. He says, no, Rameya is the same Rameya. And he holds that an iskal is your fault. But in the case of Shemi, when you're transporting the barrel, you know why you swear in your putter? Because otherwise, we want to help and enable that you'll be able to fire workers. Because if we're not going to allow these people who transport these barrels to swear and be putter, nobody's going to want to do this kind of work when you're going to hold me responsible. So how can you swear I wasn't negligent if you hold, like a mayor, that niskel is every time you slip? It's your fault. So what are you going to swear? It wasn't my fault. It doesn't make sense. Not that it wasn't my fault. It wasn't intentional. Even so.
But if you go to it's like you're hiring to do a job.
So we're saying over here, exactly, but we're saying here is that when it comes to transporting by hand, it happens. It happens often that people fall, and if we'll see the Gemara tomorrow. If it's a heavy thing, but it's heavier than an average person can carry, but not heavy enough for two people. The guy doesn't want to hire two people to do a job for. So what happens then? We'll see. Well, so now Gemara explains the machlekes according to this. The beauty comes along and says, "I don't believe in this account." Shai Mechinim Yishavi swears that he was. I hold this kalab pushayu. Shai Mechinim swears. Just to repeat a petition we just did now. Shai Mechinim swears that he was not negligent because he holds niskal lav pushayu. No yishasachi yishalach. Who cares if you're not negligent? It's not an accident. You're fine. Haikidin. Comes along. Rabbi Lezer says in Gemara. I take a look like Rabbi Meir. Like my Rebbe told me the exact same thing, like Rameyer. However, I'm wondering, I'm wondering why. I understand that swears that he say he wasn't negligent. Okay, but why does it swear? Even wasn't negligent. Even if it wasn't negligent, but it's not an action. Now, when it's a slope, it's not your fault. No, but if it's a level ground, how in the world can he swear that it wasn't his fault? Even there's a slope. Like no witness. Only if there's no witness. So that explains the three opinions over here. So Rabbi Lezer is a moider to Rabbi Yehuda that Niskel's lav pesheya is not a pesheya, but nevertheless he says I heard the halach is like Rabbi Meir, and I also hold that even Hashem Mechinim shouldn't swear. Rabbi Yehuda says Hashem Mechinim swears I wasn't negligent, and Hashem Yisachar, what's the point of swearing even if you're not negligent? Rabbi Lezer says I hold that not only Hashem Yisachar, even Hashem why even having swear? Bring the Adam over and let them say what happened there, whether it's his fault or not his fault. And it depends if it's level ground or not level ground. So Rabbi Lezer is like a third opinion. He has a problem with the swearing. Get the Adam. Stop taking things wrong with the show. Have a good day.